Mick Mulvaney is with us. He's the former White House Chief of Staff. He joins us now. You also say that the polls are just not right. Can you prove it? What's your point of view on this?
Stuart, good morning, and thanks for having me. I never thought I'd say this at the opening of an interview on this show, but I think Michael Moore is right. Words that have never come out of my mouth before.
Right.
But yeah, and I think I can prove it to folks because I've been out on the road the last 6 or 8 weeks on the campaign. And I still believe very much that you believe what politicians do much more than what they say. What is Joe Biden doing? There's a poll out in the last 24 hours that says that Texas is tied. A rating agency says that Texas is now a toss-up. There's no chance that's true, and I can prove it to you. If it were true, or it had a chance of being true, Joe Biden would be in Texas, Barack Obama would be in Texas, Kamala Harris would be in Texas, and it's simply not happening. Where are you seeing the candidates? You're seeing them in Florida, which Biden supposedly is winning. You're seeing Biden go to Michigan over the weekend, which, according to some people, he won long ago. He's sending Barack Obama to Pennsylvania, which is supposedly, according to the polls, in the Biden camp already. So, no, I think the polls are wrong, as they were in 2016, and this race is going to continue to be extraordinarily close. I think the last week to 10 days, Stuart, has really trended for the president, and he's probably peaking at just the right time.
Senator Elizabeth Warren is reported in making a case to be Joe Biden's Treasury Secretary. If he wins, she would be in the cabinet. So why is Wall Street giving money to the Biden candidacy if he might choose Elizabeth Warren as Treasury Secretary?
Yeah, I've struggled with that one myself because I've seen the same things. I've seen some of the large investment banks coming out saying there would be that much of a difference between a Biden and a Trump administration, which is just flat out wrong. And what I think you're seeing is this bias from these New York money-centered Democrats who are sort of center-left, and they think that's where the rest of the Democrat Party is, and it's not. The center of gravity right now, the Democrat Party, is far, far left of where Joe Biden historically has been. It's closer to Elizabeth Warren, and that's the wing of the party that is going to dominate if Biden is to win. So I think folks are really extraordinarily short-sighted when they look at the market and say, well, we're indifferent between Biden or Trump, or even some who are saying they're more pro-Biden. That's just wrong because they're looking at it through their own perspective and not the perspective of the Democrat Party.
What did you make of Senate Leader Mitch McConnell saying that the Democrats have a 50-50 chance of taking the Senate? Well, do you agree with that?
Let me put it this way. I think the president is better positioned right now than the Senate is, simply because there are several senators who are tracking behind the president. In North Carolina, for example. In South Carolina, my home state, for example, the Republican senators are tracking behind the president. So if the president wins by 2 or 3 points in North Carolina, Tom Tillis needs to do as well as the president. Right now, that's not happening. Lindsey Graham, about 8 to 10 points behind the president right now in South Carolina. So I think in those states where senators have tried to distance themselves from the president, they do run some risk. It's going to be a very interesting race to watch on election night. That being said, there's 2 races you should watch, Stuart. One is in Michigan, the other in Minnesota. 2 examples of Senate candidates who look like they're polling ahead of the president.
Okay, I'm just worried about a clean sweep. Biden in the White House, Democrats win the Senate, keep the House. I think the market goes down, but that's just my opinion. Mick, as always, thank you very much for being with us. We do appreciate it. Thank you.